You're listening to the IFF TV podcast.
Hello and welcome to Irish Football Fan TV. It's myself, Paul Nealon, joined by the one and only Gary Spain, known as Don Gary to many of you across social media as well. But we're here to talk about our team of the season. This is an abroad team of the season, so League of Ireland players won't feature in this video. We'll obviously do a team of the season for the League of Ireland at the end of the League of Ireland season. But it's coming to obviously the end of the season in, say, the Premier League, in Belgium, all other leagues mainly. So we said we're going to do our 11s, but it's going to be two separate 11s. I'm going to give my choice, say goalkeeper or whatever. Gary's going to give his choice, and then we're going to move through it. We've got a 4-3-3 formation. So it'll be back four, three midfielders and three attackers, and obviously a keeper as well. So I'm going to start it off, Gary, by going with Gavin Bazunu in goals. And the reason why I'm going with Gavin is obviously he's been playing probably the most regularly of all the goalkeepers that we have at the moment. And you look at how well he did when he came in for his debut and stuff like that, when we needed a keeper to kind of come in and do a job for us, considering we were completely out of any sort of keeper at that time. Like, we had no Kelleher, Randolph, and then Mark Travers made that kind of, I would call it half a mistake, and that cost us against Serbia. So for me, I think when Gavin Bazunu came in, I think he showed a real maturity. I think he's put himself in contention for being definitely a regular in the squad. I don't know about a regular as number one, but definitely if Stephen Kenny decided that he wanted to call up Gavin Bazunu as the keeper to come in and fill in, I think he'd do a job, and I think he's shown that. And I think for someone to come in, someone of his age to come in and do that, and obviously the season, in terms of personally his season with Rochdale, which earned him the call up to begin with, that's why I've gone with Gavin Bazunu in goal. Who have you gone with?
Yeah, Paul, I've agonised over this, and I've come up with a few different names. I mean, I agree Gavin did very well when he came in the March games. And he played more often than any of our keepers. But it was in League One, and Rochdale did get relegated, and he did lose his place. So that's why in the end I decided not to go with Gavin Bazunu. And then I was and then you're down to goalkeepers that don't play a lot. I mean, and it came down to me between a choice between Caoimhín Kelleher, who only played 5 games, but it was for Liverpool, who are one of the top teams, and he played in the Champions League and the Premier League. And other goalkeepers, many a forgotten man in many ways, is Kieran Westwood, who has come back. I think he's made 14 starts for Sheffield Wednesday. But he's been nearly instrumental in them coming up with a late battle to avoid relegation, and it comes down to the final day. If they can beat Derby, it'll probably be enough, depending on the Rotherham result. But if they can win at Derby at the weekend, it'll probably be enough to stay up. And I've been back and forth between Caoimhín Kelleher and Kieran Westwood, and maybe because it's fresher in my mind, and maybe because he's made such a difference and he's still a fine keeper. And I'm actually going to go with Kieran Westwood in goal, which is maybe a bit controversial. I don't know what other people think about it. But and maybe I've been swayed by recent weeks, because a few weeks ago I would definitely have probably gone with Caoimhín Kelleher or Gavin Bazunu. But just based on recent form and based on how well he's done for Sheffield Wednesday, even though Caoimhín Kelleher has done so well for Liverpool, it's probably the number of games, and probably Gavin Bazunu because it was at Rochdale, it was at League One, and he's lost his place, which I suppose doesn't augur well. I still think Gavin Bazunu is the one for the future, but I suppose based on this season, I'm going to go with Kieran Westwood on this one.
I would have thought, because you're going by recency, you would have went with Mark Travers because he scored a header. But anyway,
he's up front. He's the striker. If you're not, don't ruin the whole thing.
Oh, sorry, but no. Look, I I hear what you're saying with Westwood and Keller, but Keller has hardly played. He's hardly had a kick. When he's came in, he's done well. Yeah, I get that. But for me, Bazunu, you say he lost his place. That was towards the end of the season after the international stuff. I don't know why he did lose his place. Apparently, it was to rest him originally. I think maybe then it was just a case of maybe that other keeper who came in started doing well. But Gavin played 29 games, 4 clean sheets in that time. And if you actually look at some of the games Rochdale played, he kept them in it and he had standout performances. So I would argue, I know you're saying League One or whatever, but that was his first season in professional football as well, let's not forget. And for me, it was a success in terms of personally for him as a loan deal. As I said, it got him into the Ireland squad. He performed for Ireland as well. I think he's only going to get better. I think he's probably go on loan to another club, maybe League One or Championship again next season. I don't see him staying at City fighting for his place for a while. I think he's still got a couple of years. You've got to remember how young he is as well. But look, for me, I can't see past Gavin Bazunu. I hear what you're saying with Westwood, but 14 starts compared to 29 for me. It's chalk and cheese.
It's just, well, what I say is it is at a higher level in the Championship, even though it's in a relegation battle, but Gavin Bazunu was in a relegation battle. Gavin Bazunu did concede an awful lot of goals for Rochdale. Now, some of that is bad defence as well. And
55 goals.
So, but I think it is a case that, I suppose it's more recent, but Westwood has come in and made a real difference at Sheffield Wednesday. They were dead and buried, and now it looks like, well, they have a great chance if they can. They've taken it to the last day, and they could well survive this weekend.
Well, he was injured, so I give him the benefit of the doubt because I know he missed out on the Ireland camp because he was injured with a broken rib, and he actually probably would have came in and filled the void for goalkeeper had he not have had that rib. Even though he's still playing for Sheffield Wednesday, I think the toll of having to play, come in, train, all that type of stuff for a top level international game was a bit too much for him. So you're sticking with Westwood, then I'm sticking with Bazunu. So they're our goalkeepers. The next position I'm going to go for is left back, and player I've gone for is Millwall's Daniel McNamara, and that's because he started the season on loan in the SPL with I think it was St Johnstone. Came back, was recalled, I believe, in January, and he has been a mainstay in that team, and he's become a fan's favourite. And I suppose you could say it was kind of his first real season as well, and I just think he smashed it. I think he's had a great season in my opinion, and I look around our other left backs and I kind of struggle to see who is a kind of regular left back that's been playing. I know Enda Stevens, maybe he might have been in there, but Sheffield United got relegated. He was injured a lot of the season, so he doesn't get in. Ryan Manning, he's been here and there. I mean, he got his move to Swansea in January as well. He's been a bit part player at best with Swansea. Obviously, we want to see him maybe do a little bit more, but I think of all our left backs, he's probably the standout for me. Anyway, what's your opinion? Who did you?
Yeah, no, I have Ryan Manning down as having 44 appearances this season, and Enda Stevens is 39. So I appreciate Danny McNamara has done really, really well, and so. And it hasn't been a standout. I actually, in the end, it came down to a choice between Ryan Manning and Enda Stevens. And I feel Enda Stevens, the relegation has been an issue, and I feel Enda Stevens hasn't had as good a season this season as he had in previous seasons. He was one of the standout players for Sheffield United in previous seasons. I think this season he just hasn't been as good as he has. I think Ryan Manning has done really well. So I need to look back on the 44 appearances and get into the stats and see it is across all competitions, so many of them were starts, etc. But I felt Ryan Manning had done really well. I think people were clamouring for him to get his chance on the national stage, and finally he's got that. And again, it's one I agonised over and took a lot of time over. And I've just come down on the side of Ryan Manning on that because I think the reports, certainly more so than actually that many games, I'll admit that I've watched, is that he's been doing really well. And I've gone for Ryan Manning.
Well, I'm just looking here. Like, he's got a Scottish Premiership with Danny McNamara at the start of the season, 22 appearances, and he was in the starting 11 for every game. 1 goal, 2 assists. Then he went back to Millwall 15 appearances in the Championship, 1 assist, played in the FA Cup, and that was it. So if you add up those appearances over time as well, he would have been a starter more often than not. I'd be adamant that Manning was a substitute a lot for Swansea, coming in and out of games. That's not to say he hasn't performed well or anything like that, but he hasn't been a mainstay. That's why for me, they're both playing at the same level in the Championship. I think Danny McNamara has had a better season personally, and I think he may be one that will probably get called up or brought into the squad maybe to be looked at, because we're going to need to start looking at left backs for the future, because Enda Stevens isn't going to be the answer forever, and he isn't getting any younger. So I think Danny McNamara is obviously Manning and McNamara are going to be in the running going forward for that position.
Yeah, I think there's going to be opportunities for the June window. I mean, it looks like it's going to be quite a long training camp, starting in late May and going on to playing the 2 matches in early June against Andorra and Hungary. So I imagine Stephen is going to bring a few new players into that, and it will be an opportunity. We can go on and talk about some other players that I have considered that haven't yet got caps, but it will be a chance for Danny and probably for Ryan Manning as well.
Sorry, my thing was on mute there. I think the two of them are going to be vying for that place going forward. So I think, look, it can only bode well. But for me, I'm going with Danny McNamara. I'm sticking to my guns, and he's going to be my left back. So you're going with Ryan Manning as yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anyone's actually joining us, we are live. So, get your comments in, and if there's someone we may have missed, we'll discuss them as well. Then we're going to move on to right back situation, right? Now, last season you probably would have called me biased, but I'm going to go with Seamus Coleman. I think he's had a great season personally himself. He looks back to his best in recent games as well. Started the season really, really well with James Rodriguez. I think James Rodriguez made a lot of things easier for him. He was able to make those runs again that he used to always make, whereas I think with other players in the team, with Everton, he wasn't able to make those runs and stuff like that. So I think players like James Rodriguez and the signings that Ancelotti has brought in, I think he's gotten the best out of Seamus. And tactically, he's made Seamus probably a better player, because he's played him in different positions that he probably hasn't played before. Centre back, and even he played a little bit of right midfield as well earlier in the season. So I think Seamus Coleman, for me, I mean, he's got, I think it was 25 games in all competitions, and he's got 3 assists there. And you look at around the other kind of right backs. I mean, Matt Doherty, he hasn't performed at Spurs. I would probably say the next best player after Seamus would probably have been Cyrus Christie. He's had a good season in Forest personally. He's got in the team of the week in the Championship a few times as well. But I just think Seamus, he's playing at the highest level. He also came in and played quite well for Ireland, and you can see how much we missed him when he came back in there, despite horrible results. But you can see how much I actually worry that if he wasn't in the squad, how bad those games would have been anyway. But I just think Seamus, for me, I think he's been a standout this season, and he gets my right back vote. What about yourself?
Yeah, basically no argument. I think you've said it all. A few months ago, I probably would have called you biased, and I would have been going towards Matt Doherty. But as you said, I don't think it's worked out for him the way he was expected at Spurs. He's strongly linked with a move back to Wolves. I think it suits him playing as wing back rather than a full back. And you said it all again about Seamus. He's been superb. It looked like he had lost his place at Everton, and he just knuckled down, and he's just a key player. And I don't think there's even an argument. I agree. Cyrus Christie's done well at Nottingham Forest, but it is in the Championship, and Seamus is doing it in the Premier League. So absolutely no arguments. I think this is one of the easiest positions, and it's certainly the easiest one, and the one I've spent the least amount of time agonising over. Seamus Coleman, 100%.
Yeah, no, I think anyone in the comments would agree that Seamus Coleman has probably been the standout right back this season, and it's great to see someone like him back to his best. And he just looks sharp again. Everyone wrote him off, said he was finished for the last 2 seasons before this one, and I think that just goes to show the character of the man in which he's came back. And in fairness, Carlo Ancelotti's done a great job in terms of managing his minutes and managing his kind of game time, because he hasn't been a starter throughout the course of the season, but what he has done is he's brought him in for games where he knows he's going to be important. He's managed his minutes, and I think that helped Seamus come in for the last international window, because his minutes were kind of monitored. He played the 3 games for Ireland, and he's came back in to Everton now, and he's probably been, if you speak to many Everton fans, he's probably been the best player since those games. Like, in terms of the games when he's came in, he's done the job for us. So, I think Seamus gets the nod anyway. So, let us know if you think differently in the comments. A comment just popped up there. Coleman looked 25 in Everton's last game. And Declan Connolly says there aren't, or just pop it up on the screen, it would just be easier so everyone could see. Coleman looked 25 in his last Everton game, that's true. And then Declan Connolly says there are no other considerations for right back, really. I think Cyrus deserves a little bit of a mention, but he's never going to get in there ahead of Seamus, you know what I mean? So Cyrus, unfortunately, has never really made that step up to the next level, albeit he's been a fairly good championship right back, but he's never going to, I don't think he'll ever kick on to be a very good Premier League right back. I think everyone will admit that. But our centre half pairing then, so this one for me, it might be a little bit left field for some people, but I'm going with Warren O'Hara. He's had his first real season with MK Dons. I think he's really impressed, so much so that they basically bought him. They brought him in on loan from Brighton at the start of the season. Then Richard Keogh was playing with him originally, and he moved on then to Huddersfield, and then they actually signed Warren O'Hara as the replacement basically for Richard Keogh. And the stat, I believe, was he had the best, I think it was the best passing accuracy in League One. But, you know, people will say, well, League One, this, that and the other. If you look at our actual centre-backs, not many of them have performed, and the majority of them have gotten relegated. John Egan, I know you think he's had a good season. I don't. If you look at how, I know that they've lost by the odd goal and stuff like that, but I don't know how you can put a centre-back in who, when they've had, I think it was, isn't it a record, that lowest number of points with Sheffield United? And I just think, you know, maybe it's not his fault that people aren't scoring at the other end, but I don't see how you can put a defender in who when they have continuously lost games. Not that, look, I love John Egan, and I hope he gets a move back into the Premier League next season, and I hope he goes on to keep performing, because I think he's a great lad, he's a great defender, but I just don't think he's at the best of seasons, and we're judging it over a course of a season. I know he's been injured as well, but I'm putting Warren O'Hara in there because I think he's been a kind of a positive light on maybe a doom and gloom season. There's other players that I probably could have went for, Nathan Collins and so on. I think maybe just the recent injury maybe just kind of rules him out a little bit. And then I might go totally against what I'm saying here, but I think Darragh O'Shea's actually had a really good season personally for him, and I think that if you look at it, I think you look at compared to last season, how well he's done. Okay, he came up with West Brom in the Championship. He came in, no one knew was he going to get games in the sorry, I got distracted by a comment there. Egan was injured for half the season, played well at the start. Yeah, see what I mean? So again, you maybe look at that in terms of stats and appearances and stuff like that. But I just think if you're looking at Warren O'Hara, he's been a mainstay. Darragh O'Shea, sorry, go back to my point, is no one knew if he was going to play in the Premier League. He came in, he hasn't played every single game, but I think he's done himself absolutely no harm to get other clubs looking at him. And I think he will continuously get better, and I think he's had a really good season. He obviously came in for Ireland in November when we needed the players to come in. He came in and filled the void, and he played before that as well. It was in Finland he played. It was that September.
Yeah, he had a really good game against Finland. Yeah.
So I think that was his debut as well. So he's come in and he's looked, you know, confident at this level. He's never looked out of place, and I think he's gotten better as the season's gone on. Now look, West Brom maybe so not having a great season, but as I said, they're not like Sheffield United, who are rock bottom and have been there the whole time. So I think Darragh O'Shea, I think he gets not a pass, but I think if you look at his overall season, how much he's excelled in that time since this time last year when he got promoted with West Brom, and again he finished the season so strongly that he then became a regular, and then in the Premier League he became a regular too. And I think this season will really stand to him, because he's probably an international regular. I mean, Stephen Kenny went with him ahead of Shane Duffy. in the last international window. So look, I think Darragh O'Shea and Warren O'Hara, for me, they both actually played with each other at St. Kevin's Boys as well, so they would know each other's game if I was to go with the two of them in an actual game. So look, that's my centre-half pairing. I don't know what yours is. You can let me know.
Okay, so I'll start with Darragh O'Shea because I fully agree with Darragh O'Shea. I think he's had a superb season. As you said, he's been in and out, and when Sam Allardyce took over, he was kind of out, and he won his trust back, and I think he has. I mean, he started so many games, and he, as you said, he impressed for Ireland as well. He looked like he was the manner born when he got into our defence. So for me, Darragh O'Shea plays, even though West Brom have actually conceded 5 more goals than Sheffield United this season, and but they have done actually better. And so this is where I'm probably coming from and where I came from. I had Darragh O'Shea nailed on as one of my central defenders. The other people I considered, I did consider Warren, but I think we've got quite a lot of centre halves in the top 2 divisions. Nathan Collins was a very strong contender, and he'd been playing really well until he got injured. And I think it's probably just because he missed so many matches, and because we had a couple of players in the Premier League playing regularly that I did rule him out. And the 2 players, one John Egan that you mentioned, the other was Kieran Clark, I think, who is definitely in with a very strong mention because he's more or less become a regular at Newcastle. Okay, he was out injured for a while as well, and he was playing really well and played himself back into our squad. He was a bit of the forgotten man under Stephen Kenny. But I've actually gone with John Egan because even though Sheffield United were relegated, even though they have been on an awful run, I think part of the reason is they've really missed him. He did start the season very well. He's probably been in better form than in the Stevens. And when he's come back, okay, it's only the last couple of weeks. But again, that's why I think he is a crucial player for them. And I think he's someone that could well get a move to a Premier League club for next season. And so in the end, it came down to me agonising between Kieran Clark and John Egan to partner Darragh O'Shea, and I actually went for John Egan in the end. Maybe just his form at the start of the season, maybe just because when he plays, he's just so good. And I think he did play enough this season. And if anything, you can say Sheffield United got relegated, but maybe it's the absence of John Egan that hurt them more than anything else.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just turning my phone on mute there. I'm getting notifications here, so I'm just going to turn that on mute. So, sorry about that. John Muckian says, West Brom have conceded a league worst at the moment of 65 goals, though. Otherwise played pretty good given the circumstances. Yeah, I see what you're saying, but I'm trying to base it over who's played the most over the kind of whole season and performed. And for me, I think Warren O'Hara. I know, look, Warren O'Hara. Sorry, it's so hard to actually say that name properly. He has a League One's best pass success percentage with the 88.66%, and that's over the course of 31 games. He scored 2 goals and got 1 assist. Again, the fact that they signed him permanently, I think, shows how well he's performed this season. He's injured currently at the moment. He'd probably have more appearances if that was the case, and I just think he's going to go on from here. And I think he should be looking at maybe getting into the under-21 side now. But there's other players as well. Nathan Collins, I think maybe avoiding injury and maybe had to finish the season a bit stronger. He's maybe unlucky to miss out here. And Andrew Omobamidele obviously finished the season very strongly, but he's only played a handful of games. And maybe this time next year we could be looking at him. Maybe if he stays at Norwich for next season, I'm not sure. We'll have to see how kind of that one goes and whether he'd be trusted to kind of come in and play Premier League level, because it is, it's very unforgiving in the Premier League. So we'll see if Omobamidele gets put. But we are blessed in terms of centre backs for the next while. You might even say players like Darragh Lenihan and stuff like that maybe deserve a mention as well. But he didn't really come into my mind. Now he's always there or thereabouts in terms of the Ireland squad as well. So maybe should have kind of looked at him a little bit more. But for me,
he has played a lot actually. Darragh Lenihan has played a lot and played really well for Blackburn. I did consider him as well, but I think it's just because it was a position of strength and we had players playing at a higher level.
But if I'm looking at it, I just think 2 players that stood out for me and you'd hear a lot more about them were Warren O'Hara and I think Darragh O'Shea. And I'm looking at Darragh O'Shea in terms of what he did internationally as well over the course of the season when we needed a centre-back to come in and play. He didn't look overawed. He came in and done really well. And I think he's a future captain for the Irish team, and I think he's a proper leader, and I think he's kind of adapted very well to playing in the Premier League. I spoke there about Bamba Dead. He can come in and do it. At least Darragh O'Shea's gone and done it this season. He's gone and shown he can play the Premier League. And if a club want to take a risk on maybe like a Norwich or something like that for next season, maybe they could. And I think he would go for cheap enough if that was the case anyway. But look, so you've gone with John Egan and Darragh O'Shea.
Yeah.
Final answer.
Final answer.
Okay, and I met Warren O'Hara and Darragh O'Shea. And if you have any other mentions in the comments as well, get them in. We're live right now, so we're taking people's comments and stuff like that. Then we're looking at midfield. Then Diarmuid Hennigan's trying to say that Danny McNamara is a right back all of a sudden. Don't think that's the case, mate. But anyway. Moving on to midfield, and then we're going to go with a midfield 3. So I'm just going to give my midfield and maybe talk about the 3 of them in that sense rather than going one by one, and I'll let you do the same after. So I'm going with Josh Cullen. I think he's had a brilliant season with Anderlecht personally. He's been made captain there a few times. Vincent Kompany's spoken how highly he rates him. Came in, done the job for Ireland in the last international window. And I suppose put himself down, put a marker down to say, look, listen, I can come in here and I can do a job. And he left West Ham at the start of the last season for first team football, and to show that he's able to come in and do the job there. So I think Josh Cullen's had a really good season, and then beside him, I think Jason Knight has had a really good season as well. Personally, maybe not so Derby County, but I think he himself has had a really good season. Again, another player who broke through with Ireland through the course of the season as well, and looked like he was comfortable at international level. I think he will only get better as seasons go on. And then attacking midfield, Jamie McGrath at St Mirren. I think he's had an absolutely outstanding season, goals and assists. I think did they get into 2 semi-finals? I think they're in the semi-final at the moment now as well. They've obviously beaten Rangers, beaten Celtic over the course of the season. I think he will definitely be on course for a big move this summer, wherever that is. It could be into the Championship, Premier League, it could be Celtic, who knows. But I definitely think that he is one that definitely needs to be coming into the squad to be looked at in June. Stephen Kenny's obviously working before with Dundalk. And look, I think that he has been absolutely excellent this season, and he's gone up, I'd say, 2 or 3 levels from his time with Dundalk anyway. And I know, look, a lot of his goals were penalties and stuff like that, but I still think you look at his assists and he has to be the man to step up and take the penalties. So they're my midfield 3, and I'd like to hear yours.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised how close we are and how much we agree. I'll actually start with Jason Knight because he is in my team, but he's not in my midfield. Okay, so obviously I'm giving something away there. My midfield 3, I actually went with 2 out of your 3, Paul, and I'm actually really surprised you agree and delighted. Josh Cullen for me was a no-brainer. As you said it about Vincent Kompany, you said it about Anderlecht, a top team in the top division in Belgium. And he has been superb. I have him down as starting 34 games this season. I know he came off the bench a couple of times lately, but he's done really well for Anderlecht. And he's done really well for Ireland when he's been called upon as well. And he looks like he's going to be a mainstay for years to come. And I definitely agree with Jamie McGrath. I've only taken a lot of notice and watched him in recent weeks, but he has been superb for St Mirren. Jim Goodwin's talking him up all the time. He has been a key player for them. As you said, they beat Rangers, they beat Celtic. I think they're the only domestic team to actually beat Rangers on the pitch, if you don't count the penalty shootout, whatever St Johnstone beat them by. And he's been a key player for St Mirren. And as you said, he's sure to get a move to either probably a better SPL club, with all due respects to the buddies. But Jamie McGrath on his club form for me, and I think he's someone Stephen Kenny is definitely going to be calling upon in June for those games. My third midfielder, and the reason I moved Jason Knight into the attacking 3, is Conor Hourihane. And I only have him down for 23 appearances, and that's because for the first half of the season he hardly got a look in. But when he went on loan to Swansea, he just played so well and made such a difference. And he totally transformed them. He scored goals, he created goals, and he was just in flying form. And it's his form in the second half of the season that I couldn't leave him out of my midfield. And so I've gone for midfield three, two of yours, Josh Cullen and Jamie McGrath, and also Conor Hourihane as the third one, because I think he just played so well. In many ways, he was the standout Irish player, the player we were taking notice of for much of 2021, really. And he made such a difference for Swansea, and that's why he makes it into my team. And he did well for us, actually, before Christmas as well, when he wasn't getting in the Aston Villa team.
Yeah, well, look, I actually considered Hourihane, but I just think, again, I'm looking at the course of a full season. He didn't really play at all till January, till he got the move. Now, I appreciate he scored some great goals, and I wish he maybe didn't have that injury coming into the international window, because I think then maybe I probably would have said, yeah, okay, I'd have him in there. But unfortunately, just I don't think he's really been the same since that injury, has he? Has he scored a goal since then?
I don't think he scored. No, I don't think he scored since then.
So look, if you're talking from maybe January to March time, he was outstanding, yeah. But again, I want to judge this kind of over the course of the season. I think Knight, Cullen and McGrath would have played a lot more over the course of the season. I just want to dig out Jamie McGrath's stats. So he's played 30 appearances in the league, 7 goals, 2 assists in the cup, 7 appearances, 4 goals, 1 assist. And then you have the SFA Cup, he has three appearances, 3 goals and 2 assists, and he's been in the starting 11, the majority of all of those competitions. So he would have played the absolute most of those. Martin Herney actually says Jack Taylor's had a great season too. He got promoted with Peterborough. That's correct. But I just think if you're looking at your number 10, what you want is goals and assists, and he's played so much. I know he had a bit of an injury a while back, but I actually thought he should have been considered at the very least for the last Ireland squad, and he didn't get a look in at all. And there was other players who kind of were on standby, and I was kind of thinking, well, why are they on standby and he's not? But look, hopefully he gets the nod in June. But I think midfields we're very much in agreement on, rather than maybe one player. But I don't think you'd give out to me too much for putting Jason Knight in there, and I wouldn't give out to you too much for putting Conor Hourihane in there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I actually, as I said, I do have Jason Knight in my team. It's just, I felt Conor Hourihane made such a difference to Swansea, and he was the player we just took so much notice of in the first quarter of the year, that he did enough to, just with his goals, with his assists, with the run they went on. And Alan Brown is actually a good shout. I did consider Alan Brown for Preston as well.
He was
I know
right back a lot, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, he is a midfielder, and he did get the goal in Serbia. But if anything, I was a bit disappointed in his performances maybe after that. And that's why I went with Conor Hourihane. Yeah, and I certainly wouldn't argue. I think Josh Cullen and Jamie McGrath did more than enough to get in the team.
I don't think Alan Brown has been that good. Maybe he's been good for Preston or whatever. But as I say, he's been played largely as a kind of right wing back. Another player we maybe forgot to mention that's done quite well, I think, since signing back at Preston, was Greg Cunningham at left back as well. But I suppose our front three, this one it's been a quite difficult one for me to kind of get my head around. This one, the centre forward anyway. But I give it front three, and I'm kind of torn between my left winger, and they're both in League One. I think you can guess who they are. But my right winger is Anthony Scully. He's played 39 games. He started 22. He's got 11 goals and 4 assists with Lincoln City. Then left wing, I'm kind of torn between Aidan McGeady and Ronan Curtis. I think I'll probably just go with Aidan McGeady, just purely to the fact that Sunderland beat Portsmouth in the cup final at Wembley. I think it was the EFL Trophy. But I mean, if you're looking at it, like, Aidan McGeady has played 28, started all 28, and he's got 4 goals and 14 assists. And then if you look over, I suppose you could again say over the course of the full season, Ronan Curtis started 35, played 41. He's got 10 goals and 7 assists. But if you look at in terms of the goal contribution in through the games, I think McGeady probably has more in terms of the number of games that he's played, and he's been absolutely outstanding since he got called back into the team, and his assists have shown that. Then up front, I was kind of torn between James Collins and David McGoldrick. Again, we spoke about Sheffield United, maybe not firing in the goals, but in terms of his actual, since he retired from international football, he went on to have, a great spell. And I think I'll pull up the goals here. So he had, in the league, he had 31 appearances, 7 goals and 1 assist. And then he played in the FA Cup for 4 games, and he had 1 assist. 1 goal in the Carabao Cup as well in 1 appearance. So I think if you base it off last season, he couldn't score a goal in the Premier League for so long, remember, and then he retires from international football. All of a sudden he was doing brilliant. But I look at him, and then I look at James Collins, who played 41 games, started 29 of them. He's got 10 goals and 2 assists. So, and that's I think that's just 10 goals and 12 assists. So I think I probably have to go with, in terms of goal involvement, because that's what you want from your striker, I'm probably going to go for James Collins. And let's not forget as well, he did score against Serbia as well. Albeit it was only a tap in, but he still scored. So I think he's been okay for Ireland as well, I think as well. So look, I think that front three, it's not amazing. It's not going to strike fear into teams, but look, I think it's a fair assessment on kind of what we have. But look, you might have someone that's in the Championship or Premier League or whatever, so I'm intrigued to know your front three.
Yeah, it's a little different, and I considered many of the same. So I think the first one is I felt Jason Knight had to play, and he had to make my 11. And when I was down to the 4 midfielders, as I said, Jason Knight can also play as part of an attacking 3, and that was
over the course of the season.
He did for Derby, yeah, he did, and I mean he scored goals for Derby as well. So, I put Jason Knight in because I think he has had a standout for such a young player to be, and I know Wayne Rooney trusts him so much, and he's done so well. So that's why I played Jason Knight as part of an attacking 3, because we don't have a lot of attacking talent, and that's probably where we've been suffering. And the other player I put in, and I know you had him on the right, and I put him as a striker because of his goals and because he's helped Lincoln so much, is Tony Scully. So even though he probably plays on the right, I think he's made such a difference. He's scoring goals lately.
I think he does a bit of everything.
It does a bit of everything. So I had him as my centre forward. I think partly coloured by the fact that James Collins has lost his place at Luton, and maybe I'm being a bit biased towards recent form in that James has probably been. Now he just come off the bench and he's got the odd goal, but he's out of favour at Luton, whereas Lincoln are actually flying. They're in the playoffs. They made a bit of a run for automatic promotion as well. So and Tony Scully is scoring goals and making an important contribution to them as well. And then it came down to, I did consider Ronan Curtis, but actually it came down to a choice for me between Callum Robinson, who I know has been a bit of a bit part player in the Premier League, but it has been in the Premier League. He has scored some crucial goals, almost all of them against Chelsea, but he has come back into favour with Sam Allardyce as well. He's played himself possibly back into the team. And Aidan McGeady that you mentioned, who's been absolutely superb in League One with Sunderland. He's created so many goals for Charlie Wyke, and he's absolutely flying. And again, it's another one I've probably nearly flicked a coin over between Aidan McGeady and Callum Robinson. And I'm just going to
Callum Robinson, by the way.
I am serious with Callum. I mean, well, we're
look at before the international break, he couldn't get a kick, and he was playing in the under-23s.
Well, he started the season with West Brom as well. I mean, he scored a couple of goals. He was a regular at the start of the season, and he lost his place, and he's come back into it, and it is Premier League as opposed to League One, and that's where we're actually looking at as And I mean, it is a problem position. I mean, we talk about centre halves, and you can leave out
But he's
a Premier
played
League
as a centre
centre half.
forward, Gary. He's played as a centre
So,
forward this season. You're just trying to accommodate.
well,
Try
it
and play
is
the
trying to
players
accommodate.
in trying to play them in their natural position where they've played all season.
Well, but it is trying to accommodate in a front three as well. And I mean, Callum Robinson can play on the right now. I know, appreciate that's where probably have Jason Knight as well. But
where has he played for West Brom this season?
well, he's played down the middle. Yeah.
So what I would suggest to you is put Scully on the left and put Robinson up top. If that's what you're going for.
Well, you can possibly do it that way, but Scully probably plays more on the right or more down the middle as well. But I think Robinson can play across the front three. So,
but he didn't play there this season.
Yeah, he doesn't tend to play down the middle for Ireland anyway. You know, so.
But how many games does he play for Ireland over the course of a year? 9.
So. Yeah, but I mean, some of it does come down to the level they're playing at, and
I appreciate that. But when we do these, we're trying to keep them in their natural position, and he's not playing left wing for West Brom. He's playing as a centre forward, as a 1 up top, and that we're based it on this season, not necessarily over over their careers, and maybe then you could say you could play left wing, but we're based on this season and where they've actually played.
But Aidan McGeady hasn't really played left wing either for Sunderland. I think he's played more on the right. So,
well, then you just switched them.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have based it more on.
I've watched McGeady, and a lot of his goals have been coming from the left hand, or a lot of crosses and assists have been coming from the left hand side.
Yeah, they have. I mean, but he cuts in as well, you know. So, and I did look at it more as being a front three, and that's as probably interchangeable. So, anyway, we can switch it over. We can put Callum Robinson in the middle and play Tony Scully on the left, but.
I think that's a fair assessment.
I think it is a fair assessment. I mean, it is. And even the fact that I put Jason Knight up front, we are struggling with attacking options and we don't have players. It is very much a fair assessment that you can leave out someone at the back who's playing regularly in the Premier League and you're struggling to fit in people who are... And I mean, the other fair assessment is that Paul said we can only go as low as League One. I mean, because Wes Hoolahan would have been a very serious contender as well. At what is he, 39 years of age? And I mean, and he probably would have made my team. I mean, that's the reality. We are struggling.
I don't think he could have had Jamie McGrath under Wes. You look. I mean, McGrath's been played in majority of their games. Wes has had to miss the midweek game so he could play the Saturday as well. I just think having League Two in, someone actually said it there, no mention of League. We actually had an agreement that we would not go as low as League Two before the video. So that's the only reason. We absolutely adore Wes. You know, I was talking to him there a couple of weeks ago. And obviously his aim was to get Cambridge promoted or whatever. I think this will be his last season as well, by the way. He's going to be 40 this time next season, or in a couple of weeks this time next year. So I think he'll be bowing out. And look, I would love no more to have him in this team, but I just think you have to be fair as well and remember that the level in which that they are playing at too. And I just think Jamie McGrath gets in there ahead. And I know we've gone from strikers back to the number 10, but people are saying, Owen Doyle's having another great season. Yeah, but again, you got to compare that to, say, James Collins, who actually has been scoring at international level as well. David McGoldrick, his contributions over the course of the season, he was still very good for Ireland when he did come in and play that game against Slovakia. He was very good as well. So, I mean, yeah, the striking options aren't great, as we mentioned before.
Well, they're not. I mean, there's no one beating a drum to say, I mean, we are struggling with striking options. I mean, Callum Robinson has hardly played, you're right. And I mean, he got dropped down to the under-23s. And but James Collins got dropped by Luton, you know. Aidan McGeady, what is he, 34, 30, he's turned 35, you know. It's... we are struggling, and that's the sad reality of it. And
Well, I think
I
with
just
McGeady,
think,
Gary, I think with McGeady, the fact that he was getting talk of him being called up is, and players like Ronan Curtis who do play late League One, excuse me, they did get called. They did get called up as well. So it's not like it would be abnormal for McGeady to get called up because he was playing the same level as, say, a Ronan Curtis or whoever. That's why I don't think someone like Scully would be that far away if Stephen did pick him for June. So I think we're in agreement on Scully. I just can't have Callum Robinson in my team. But look, you can have him if you want, but you can't have him as a left winger.
okay. Well, then I'll put Callum Robinson. Well, actually, I'll put Aidan McGeady on the left then, probably, because, I mean, he's played there quite a bit. So, and I'll put Scully through the middle then. I was agonising between Callum Robinson and Aidan McGeady when it came down to a front three. But if we're going to go for positions, and actually and I went with Callum Robinson because, without a lot of conviction, because he hasn't played that much, but he has. I mean, what did he get? 4 goals against Chelsea. I think he's only got 1 goal against anybody else in the Premier League. But it is the Premier League, and it is scoring against top defences. And nobody else seems to be able to score against Thomas Tuchel except Sam Allardyce's team. And but you can't really base it on a handful of matches. But he's also played for us as well. But yeah, if it's going to go down for positions, I mean, it's one I spent quite a bit of time, and I was nearly tossing a coin in the end over it. So yeah, if it's going to be positions, I play Aidan McGeady on the left and play Tony Scully down the middle. I think Tony Scully is someone who really deserves it, whereas well, it's maybe the age is going against Aidan McGeady, and it's the League One. I think Tony Scully is one who can. What is he now? 22. He's someone who can go to a higher level. Especially if Link can go up, he will at least be playing in the championship next season. Will catch Stephen Kenny's eye, I reckon.
I think it's a decent assessment by Adon Cunningham. He says, if you're doing a best 11, the formation won't always fit where everyone is playing for their clubs. Front three could all be interchangeable. Poor that it's League One. Our players are starting over the Premier League. I think that's you're correct in saying that.
Yeah.
But again, I look at Robinson. He played they would play 4-5-1 or 5-4-1, and he would be the one that would be down the middle. So he based now over the course of the season. That's where he was playing.
It probably suits him to play as part of a 2 as well, which we obviously weren't picking a front 2. We're picking a 4-3-3 formation.
I think he'd be good off the left, for Ireland. I think he would, but and maybe for West Brom, maybe for someone else. But I'm not saying it for who he is as a person. I'm just saying it for the actual position in which we're trying to base someone over the course of a season, that they have to have played in that position. Declan Connolly says, anybody you guys can see currently that is likely to break into this team next year from a striking perspective. See, I think the disappointing thing is about this is the likes of, I suppose, Admira got injured. Aaron Connolly has been in and out of injury and in and out of form, and every time he gets a bit of form, it's well, because you got to look at it. He had a nice little period, and then he picked up like a hamstring injury, scored in one game. And every time he looks like he's going to go on a bit of a run, he gets a knock. And he's never really been able to find a run of form and a run of games. So then you can be like excited to see him coming into the Ireland team and go, all right, this fella's on fire, he might do us a job. And then something happens where he gets injured. He got injured in the training session, didn't he, before we played England? So, I mean, It's been disappointing. Troy Parrott's been a little bit disappointing in terms of his goals return. I don't think maybe his performance has been that bad, but his goal return is what you're kind of looking for your attackers. And I think he got 1 goal all season. And then, looking around, you've Adam Ida. I don't want to be looking at this list in a year's time and saying David McGoldrick, because he's obviously retired from international football. We want players who are actually in the squad and performing. James Collins, again, I don't really expect him to be on this list. If he is, that's well and good. It'll depend on whether he gets a move this summer. I think it's all a key thing now is where these players get moves to next. I don't know about Aaron Connolly, he'll probably stay at Brighton, but if he could get a loan move, you've got Obafemi as well, you've got Afalabi, all these players that may step up next season. You just don't know.
Josh Coyote at Carlisle is probably another one to keep an eye on. He's scoring a few goals,
again, if he was in League Two, maybe If he wasn't
I know.
League Two, he might have got more of a mention. Do you know what I mean? But I just think there is players there and under 21s and stuff like that. But we just need now to see them maybe perform. And I think I did a video on players that need to move and stuff like that, and they just need to move smartly and go to a club where they know that the club they're going to play the system that suits them, and also at the same time that the manager isn't going to be sacked after 5 weeks or whatever it is, and then they're back to square one. Because we all thought when Troy Parrott moved to Millwall that was going to be a brilliant move, and it never really materialised as that, did it?
And even Ipswich, I mean, I thought then, okay, great. Millwall were in horrible form. They weren't playing well. They weren't creating chances. Drop down a division, go to Ipswich. They're on the fringes of the playoffs. They're going to be scoring goals. And look, there was general delight, I know, when Troy Parrott scored. It's probably one of the most celebrated league goals by an Irish player this season. And he hasn't been playing that bad, but he hasn't kicked on. I suppose many of us, myself included, were hoping Troy was going to be the next superstar. And there's still time. He's still a young lad, but it just hasn't happened yet. And hopefully next season. But we are.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, just saying we are struggling. I mean, it's a fair comment by Declan. We are struggling for talent up front, and I mean, it is in some ways it's ridiculous. The players we're considering or where we're looking for. But I mean, scoring goals, creating chances, it is an issue for the national team, and I'm hoping the likes of Aaron Connolly and Adam Ida are back fully fit and fully firing. But it is a problem position.
Just a couple of quick comments. Declan Connolly says, "Is the continental option smarter at this point for young Irish players?" I would say so. You look at some of the players, like I know Caden McLaughlin, who we did an interview with there a few weeks ago. He signed his first professional deal with Villarreal, and he seems to be just moving up the ranks there, very quickly and being a really good goal scorer there. I think the likes of Zeffy and stuff like that. He's still linked with Inter Milan. I don't think that's confirmed yet. But it probably will be soon. But I think the more players we probably see going abroad, it's probably better. In terms of, you look at clubs like Borussia Dortmund, who seem to be more willing to give players a chance. I'm not saying our players are going to go to Borussia Dortmund at the start, but what I'm saying is, I think maybe just getting away from their comfort zone and maybe getting away from these friends who maybe not being the best people to be around for them, is to kind of go away and go to somewhere like a Germany or Jack Byrne going to Holland. You've seen how well that worked out for him as a young lad. I think when you're a young lad and you can go abroad, you literally just solely focus on the football. And you might have your friends over for a weekend every now and again, but it's not so much where you're going to a party and you're just focusing on the football. So I think that's a big side of it as well. I'm not saying that all our players are going out with all their mates or whatever. I just think to get away from the distractions, I think it could be better for them to go abroad as well. In terms of the continental, before someone in the comments goes, "Oh, England is abroad," because I got that a few weeks ago off people. But anyway, trying to be smart about it. But Martin Harney says, actually, do you want to touch on that in your own opinion?
Yeah, I do, and it's a couple of things. One of the important things about Brexit now is our players aren't able to go to the UK clubs until they're 18, whereas they can still travel within the EU from 16 years of age. So I think they have to start considering the Spanish, Italian, German, French, Dutch, Belgian, whatever clubs as well. But it is, and I know it's abroad, and I know that, but it is a bigger deal to be going to Italy or Spain than to be going to England. I mean, I know England is a foreign country, don't get me wrong, but it is the same language. It's much easier, it's much more connected, it's just an hour on the plane. You go to the likes of Italy and Spain, you have to learn a new language, which it is more difficult. It's a totally different culture as well. So it's probably harder to adapt. But unfortunately, it's going to have to become, because if players want to develop, and it's just all about the going into these academies at these top clubs, and I'm talking about our top players, I think they need to go in at 16 and to get the contact hours with these top coaches, because and I know the clubs here do some fantastic work, and I'm talking with like the Shamrock Rovers, St. Kevin's with Bowes and everything, and the hours, the time that the players get, but it's not the same as being in the academies at Manchester City, at Inter, at Real Madrid, at these top clubs in these top leagues, that your whole day from 16 on will be focused and on your development. So for our future top players, I think they will need to go at 16 because we will not have the structures here at this stage to develop the top players.
Like Evan Ferguson.
Yeah. So it's absolutely crucial that they can get to go away, and when they can't go to the top British clubs until they're 18, I think they will need to look at Germany or wherever, somewhere else in the EU and the top clubs there. And look, there are fantastic academies and all over the EU, but the language and just the extra bit of culture. I mean, it's a big deal at 16 to be moving abroad, and especially you're moving away from home. I suppose it's a far bigger deal for me when I'm looking at it to see somebody moving to Spain, moving to Germany, moving to Italy, than actually moving to England. Even though I know it's all abroad, I know it's a different country and all that, but it's just the language, the culture is just that extra bit of development. Because I imagine most 16-year-olds don't speak Italian or that very well. They might have basic French in school or whatever you get, but they wouldn't speak that much Italian, German, Spanish, whatever you'd need to learn, which does bring in an extra degree of difficulty. But unfortunately, the way things are happened with Brexit, our players can't go anymore until they're 18 to the top English clubs. So they will, by default, be looking at the continent.
Well, I think you look at some of the players who've gone to the continent or maybe grew up there. Again, I spoke about Caden McLaughlin. You had Ryan Nolan, who was at Inter, a couple of clubs now. He's at Getafe. He's out at the moment with a ACL injury. You've got John Joe Patrick Finn. Not sure where he's at in terms of his thing, in terms of his Irishness, or is he going to play for Ireland or whatever. It seems like it's on the right track, but again, he's not really played that much with Getafe, but he seems to be like you've seen the uproar made about him already, just because he's an Irish lad, or an Irish name anyway, playing in La Liga. And then you have Conor Noss, who's at Mönchengladbach. He's been on the bench a couple of times with them as well. He seems to be quite an exciting prospect. So once we hear players are linked with these clubs, I'd say me and you are quite level-headed, but fans lose their minds. They're like, oh my God, he's going this, there. Even thought with Jeff Hendrick being linked to AC Milan. People were like, oh my God, if he goes, that's a brilliant move. And all of a sudden, Jeff Hendrick was the flavour of the month again. And then he went to AC Milan. You never know how that could have worked out, but it didn't, unfortunately. But I think, look, I would like to see some of our players moving abroad. You got Dan Rose as well, went to Schalke from Everton, goalkeeper as well, and he seems to be doing quite well. He was in the under-21 squad, called up. I just think he couldn't get out of quarantine to come in for the Wales game there, but he was called up by Jim Crawford. And there's other players there I'm sure we're forgetting, but look, the more of them that go abroad, the better. But again, it has to be the right move, and it has to be a move that will excel them on. It can't just be going to the Inter Milan for the sake of the name Inter Milan. You know, you have to be going there to make a career for them, or they have to be going there to make a career for themselves. That's just my opinion. Martin Harney says, think Troy Parrott's been playing a deeper role at Ipswich too. Yeah, he has. And Grizz the Bear, just to finish on the last comment, he says, thoughts on Brighton's young contingent of Irish players. I think there's a really good core group there coming through. I mean, you've got James Furlong, who went over from Shamrock Rovers, and he was playing in the Shamrock Rovers first. I remember he played a very important game. I think it was the league decided. Michael Duffy scored a cracking goal up in Oriel Park, and James Furlong, I think, was starting left back that night at 16. He's gone over there. They won the 17th Premier League trophy against Middlesbrough yesterday. Lee Kavanagh was playing as well, signed from Bray, as well as obviously Andrew Moore, who scored that cracking goal. And he has a serious amount of goals and assists at this season across all the underage levels with Brighton. You've got Evan Ferguson there as well. Again, I might be missing one or two, but there's definitely a really good core group there, and if they can continue to develop there, Obviously, Brighton have been quite good in terms of developing Irish players, Malumbi, Aaron Connolly, and I think you could say in some ways they kind of helped develop Shane Duffy into a very good defender as well under Chris Hughton, because that's kind of where he then started to excel as probably Ireland's best player. He got player of the season with Brighton a couple of times, and obviously with Ireland playing at Brighton. So there seems to be a good connection between Ireland and Brighton. Would you say, Gary?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, actually, Brighton and Norwich are two of the clubs I'm kind of keeping an eye on for young Irish players and developing. Look, all of these major clubs, and I mean, Norwich are the Premier League club now. They've all got great academies, and they are all focused on developing young players. So it's a fantastic opportunity for our players, and it's. What can I say? It's amazing, and it's great to see the contingent there.
Yeah, there's just a couple of comments there. Cormac O'Brien says Andrew Moore, and I'm pretty sure he said Andrew Moore when he
did, yeah.
What they call.
Yeah.
Young Irish Max Murphy says young Irish players should go to the USA and play better than the Championship. I don't know. Look, Derek Williams has gone there, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. He seems to think that despite going there, he's still going to get called up by Stephen Kenny. So look, we'll see. I think we'll see how it goes regarding that. But look, we've been on this an hour from our team of the season. I think we finished the team of the season about 10 minutes ago. But what we can do is that if you guys want us to start doing some live videos, like live Q&As, and maybe in the comments if you're going to give us a time, and maybe we'll do one kind of during the week or whatever, and we'll just take comments and kind of give a bit of a Q&A sort of thing if you want. So let us know. Were you going to say something there, Gary? Sorry.
Yeah, just about the MLS. I'm not sure it is better than the Championship. I know the standard has gone up, and it is a great opportunity for Derek Williams. And look, it's fantastic to be able to go and live in wonderful places like LA and New York or wherever and play football. But it can be a bit of out of sight, out of mind as well. I think you'd come to Stephen Kenny's attention a lot quicker if you're playing in the Championship and playing in the MLS. Yeah, but Robbie went kind of the end of his days as well, you know. So I'm not so sure. Now I know you get to play. There are some very good players going to the MLS, and it is getting huge exposure. Obviously, football's getting a lot bigger stateside as well, and they have their own Champions League. I think they're playing against the Mexican clubs at this stage and all that. But I'm not so sure. I don't know if we're going to be paying. I think it's going to be harder for Derek Williams to break into Stephen's squad playing in LA rather than playing in the Championship. That's my thoughts anyway.
Yeah. Look, I think we'll leave it at that, guys. We probably a little bit longer than we expected, but we're not complaining. Huge thanks to everyone who got involved in the comments. And as I said, we might do something like this someday next week, maybe at 11 in the morning or some days. Let us know in the comments if you had a preferred time or whatever, so we can kind of get the most amount of people on to have a chat with us. If you're not in work or whatever, let us know. And let us know your thoughts on the team we chose. Let us know your team of the season as well. And we'll speak to you soon. Thanks for watching. Oh, by the way, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, because we're very close to 10,000 subscribers. So we need to get that. So tell all your mates to subscribe as well. We'll speak to you soon. Thanks for watching.